Now, I have no idea why this video keeps cutting in and out, and I'm not sure how much we've missed. But anyway, I've planted my Canada geese nesting in the bushes here, and I've put in a few bushes. I'm now going to add my outhouse, since I know exactly where I want it to be, and I want to snug up my landscaping around the edges of the outhouse. So we'll just apply glue to the bottom of the outhouse, and we will plant it, and we discover that we need to make a little space for the door. Okay, so there's the outhouse put in place. Again, making sure it's in at least 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Okay, so we are going to add a little more texture here of 2 kinds. We're going to use more of our moss, sort of in the background, but we're also going to use one of my favorite ground covers, which is raw tea leaves. So we're going to put lots of glue in here. Down a little bit of that, not much. And add a little bit of tea. Now, don't particularly worry about covering up your glue. Oh, well, I better put a little bit more in there. Completely covering up your glue, because don't forget, one of the nice features of taffy is that it dries clear. Okay, and we're going to get oh dear. Every once in a while you've got to clean out your glue bottle. I'm just getting a lot more glue here ready to continue on with the landscaping. Once you actually start the landscaping, you get a pretty organic flow going. Now, I had wanted my fire pit in about here. Now, I'm not going to glue it in place, but I am going to sit it there so I know where I want it to be. All right. And I will continue on with my glue around this side. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do, and you can take this from your twig stash, we need a couple of seats sitting by the fire pit. So let's put a seat there. And a seat here. Maybe a third one. Oh no, I don't have a third one ready to go. Okay, so we'll just have the two. Okay, and more moss. Where's our dry paintbrush? I'm just trying to keep it off the go through huge whacks of glue doing this, don't you? Okay, and tea. Oops. Now that was a weird thing. I just dipped my glue stick into the tea, and that made for an interesting mess. Okay, so just make sure we've got glue in all the places we need glue here. Now I have managed to get glue all over the underneath of my canoe. Sorry about that, phone rings. Okay, we're going to keep going around the edge of our diorama here. Again, making very sure that we're staying back far enough from the edge. By using the more than one color of this moss, we're getting a very realistic look. In the moss, there's all kinds of bumps and lumps, like that little piece of whatever it is. And also, when I was cutting apart my twigs, I ended up with some bits and pieces of wood. So it never hurts to just add a piece of wood every once in a while. Let's put some glue on that. And we'll just Have a log nestled in there. So you can use all kinds of natural items doing this. Well, I say natural with some reservations. Natural ingredients that you buy from, for example, Michael's, have been treated so that there are no bugs in them. Now, if you go out and collect your own, sorry, just cleaning off my lake here. If you go out and collect your own natural ingredients, I would recommend that you put them on a cookie sheet, put them in the oven at about 250 for about an hour. That will kill any wildlife that may be there, okay? Okay, so continuing on here. Now again, this is the front edge of my deck. Now that I look at this, I realize that my deck doorway is here. And I need to continue my stones. So I need a few more rocks in through here. Okay, now let's try tipping this and hope that not everything falls off. This is where my picnic table is going to sit, is right in here. This is going to be my parking area, so it's going to be mostly dark. But while we're fooling with this, let's just take our brown wash again and darken down those stones. Okay, at this point, we should be thinking about trees and bushes. Now, well, no, that's not true. I'm going to just put a little tiny piece of bush right there, I think. Okay, so let's continue on to the end of this. Okay, and a bit more of our moss. Some tea. The thing I like about using tea rather than coffee, here we go, a little gourmet talk for you, is that tea is, coffee is ground, so it's all a uniform texture. Tea is all kinds of different textures, as you can see there, and also different colors. So my preference is to use leaf tea rather than coffee. Now, that is if we're using it for textured ground cover. If you're using it for dirt, then coffee is better for exactly the reason that it's not good for ground cover. Because it is ground, it is a uniform texture, it looks more like dirt. Okay. Okay. Now, this is the edge of our cabin right here, so I'm going to put a little bush right there. Maybe I won't do it right now because I'm not quite sure where the deck's going to fit. In fact, that's the front of the deck, not the front of the, where's my tea? Not the front of the cabin. So let's put some good thorough sprinkling of tea down on here. Okay, and just to soften that a bit, now you'll see from cutting up, I now have some very nice fine bits and pieces here, so I'm just going to apply that around the edges just to soften this a little bit. Again, making sure I left that 1/4 of an inch. Now, there is actually a strip of landscaping that goes down just by the side of the cabin, but I'm going to wait till I've got the cabin glued in place before I do that. Now, what we are going to do is start planting trees. So there's my front yard of my cabin. Okay, now we're going to go around to the back. Planting trees is a tricky little process because you have to look down from the top of your make sure that your tree isn't sticking out. Now, you'll see this tree has branches, so you can actually shape your tree. This is when more pieces drop off, but that's like that. More bushes. So we're going to put it in there like that. Because it's flexible, when the case comes down, it will push in these sides. And you can fiddle with it. So we're going to have one tree like that. We're going to have, we have 2 spruce trees. Okay, and I'm going to plant one, oops. Now that's something worth remembering. These trees come in 2 pieces with a little piece like that. Take this part, dip it in your glue, and put it together like that. It only takes a second, and there's nothing more annoying than having your diorama all done and you try and transport it and your trees fall down. Now they're easy enough to rebuild, but still it's just annoying. So you don't really want it to happen. Okay, now I'm going to put one of my, and that goes for this one as well. There, now all my trees are glued. So I'm going to have my deciduous tree along the back of the outhouse. I'm going to have my small tree here. My small evergreen is going to sit there. And my large evergreen is going to sit here. That means that my moose, whoops, can stand like that. Okay, so let's get started on planting trees. Before I plant my trees, and my moose for that matter, I'm going to do one last tip of my piece. I'm going to set that aside, and to give myself a flat surface to work on, I'm going to tip all of these bits into my container, as well as any stray pieces that are on my work surface. Okay. Oops, I knocked my camera when I was so busily pounding things around. Okay, so small tree first. When you're putting your glue on, put lots of glue on the surface here, because you're going to fill around the base of the tree with some ground cover. Again, leaving our 1/4 of an inch or so. Okay, so small evergreen here, right up the side of the sorry, I just need a bit more stuff here. Okay, and cut it up. Okay, so we'll just put a little bit of ground cover here, and you're going to need to put just a tiny dab of glue on the actual top of the base of your spruce tree, so that the ground cover will stick to your tree. Sorry, I'm just cleaning off my glue spreader. It's covered with crud. Okay, so we just need to put a little bit of glue on the top of your base so that we can apply a little bit of ground cover around that. Okay. And where's our deciduous tree? In fact, it will be easier for me to put the glue on the top. Don't need to put it underneath because the underneath part is already on the ground. But put it on the top. You see where I'm putting it there? On the top of the base. And let's plant our tree snug up to the back of the outhouse. And ground cover. And lastly, we're going to put, first of all, we're going to get some more glue. Okay, starting right up close to the rocks here. And up close to the edge of the outhouse. Whoops, that was a clever thing to do. Don't drop your glue spreader in your foliage because it makes a big mess. Why don't we plant another little bush right beside our outhouse here. Now we need to get some ground cover in there. Now we need some tea to kind of soften the transition between the path and the undergrowth. And I think I'm getting quite close to the edge of my house here, so pretty soon we're going to put the house in place and then we can continue our detailed landscaping, but we'll get this part done first. What a messy glue spreader. Okay. Okay, and our last tree, again with the making sure we put glue on top of the base. Okay, and we want our big tree about here, I think. And lots of ground cover in here. Now try and keep this wherever you're going to put your mousse. Try and keep it relatively flat. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Mousse they weigh about 1,500 pounds, so they will sink into just about anything. Okay. I think I might, just for fun, plant a log under this tree. Okay. Now we are going to do one last tip and shake. Put that on one side for just a second and clean this up. Okay, now we are going to glue our cabin in place. It occurs to me it might be easier to just do this. The reason for putting the cabin in place before we really do the edges of where the cabin's going to go is because some of our landscaping is of course going to snug up to the edges of the cabin. Okay. So, let's take our cabin and put it in place. Okay, now turn this around and get our deck and get that in place. Now then, this is where you do your very last check with your plexiglass cover to make sure you've got your cabin far enough in. You can always prune your bushes and things. You cannot prune your cabin. So let's put it in place. Okay, so mine is not quite square. And I can come back a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good placement. So put that on away again. I'm just going to do one little change there. Okay. Now is where we get to do the last of the edges. Now I'm just going to, it's up to you which order you do this in, but I'm just going to turn this, oops, my tree fell over. I guess I knocked it loose. Okay, now let's come back to the front of the cabin. We are going to now go right up to the edge of the deck. Let's start there with what you might call repair. And all the way down the side here. Again, staying good 1/4 inch from the edge. Okay, let's get the worst of that off the edge of the deck. Okay, so we can use a little tiny bit of gravel here. But I think we're going to bring our, oh dear, we need to chop up some more landscaping. Oh dear, I've got way too much here. Sorry, I suppose I should have shut the video off while I was doing this process, but it gives you a sense of the real time that it takes to do this rather than oh, no wonder I couldn't cut it. There's an actual big twig in here. Okay, now let's get some of that landscaping down the edge of the deck. Not landscaping, let's call this what it is, ground cover down the edge of the deck. And while I think of it, I'm just going to darken up those stones a bit. Now, I think I'm going to have my rabbit. hiding by the corner of my deck somewhere. Decide where I'm going to put him. Leave a little bit of space for him. Now, this bit's a bit tricky to go down the edge of the cabin here. Realize you probably can't see what I'm doing. I'm just putting the ground cover, the foliage, down the side of the cabin. Now, if you have pieces that are sticking out and sticking up, that's okay. See how that, I don't know if you can see that. No, you probably can't. But there are pieces that are actually there. See, they're actually sticking up the side of the cabin. And this tree does not want to stay stuck down. Okay, as we're coming around to this side of the cabin, we're getting some excess bits dripping into our 1/4 inch piece, and I don't want to just pull them loose because it'll pull the other thing. So just take a pair of scissors and just clip off the excess and tuck them back into place. Okay, a little bit more down here. Now you're mostly covering up that rock work you did at the bottom, but where it does show through, it just adds to the realism. Okay, let's turn this around. I'm just going to put my rabbit on the deck for a moment. Okay, we're getting very close to being finished here, actually. Okay, so I need to Okay, we need a little bit more gravel. Wiping off this glue spreader is quite the operation. Okay, and a bit more glue. I'm going to remember to go back to the tool list and put in large bottle of tacky quick grab. Can't believe how much glue we've managed to go through in this little operation. Okay. Okay, now first of all, some very fine foliage. And then let us put some glue on the bottom of our little tiny rabbit. And let's plant him right there. Oh dear, all I've managed to do is stick him to the foliage and not stick him to anything that actually will hold him down. Let's try that again. He's such a little guy. Now the other little critter that we got to decide where we're going to put, I don't think you can actually see my rabbit, but he's right here. And that is my skunk. Now the skunk I think I'll put right out here by the canoe. So I'm going to just dig a little hole in the foliage. And I'm going to take him. Oops. He's just a tiny little guy. And plant him right there. Now some of this is very small, so people are going to have to really look at it. That's a jackrabbit, so it's a fair size, but the skunk is a tiny little guy. Okay, now we have got to, oh, there's a blank spot in there. This is where we start looking to see where we need to add bits and pieces. So we need some more gravel right in here. Let's try not to get too much glue on the edge of the deck. Okay, and a little more gravel. Okay, take our brown wash. I'm just going to darken up that rock a little bit so it blends in with all the other rocks. Lighten that up with a little bit of brown. Okay. Now, we have not yet glued down our fire pit, and we didn't glue it down for a reason. Because we are going to add some smoke. Now, this is, we picked this up at a Halloween store. It's called Spider Web, and it looks like this. Now obviously that's way too much for what we want. We're just going to cut a little bit off the end, just enough to play with. Okay, just a little piece like that. Now there's two places you can put this. One, of course, is in your fire. So let's take out our fire pit, which we have not yet glued down. And this stuff stretches out to practically nothing. What you want is just the hint of smoke coming up. So can you see that? So we're going to cut a piece about, oh, maybe an inch long, like that. And just put it on the canoe for the time being. going to clean off our glue spreader one last time. Well, not last time, probably. Now what you need to do is apply to your fire pit tiny little bits of glue. You see that? Just little tiny bits of glue. And then taking one end of your smoke in your tweezers, you're going to stick that end into the glue so that it holds it in place. Okay. Now this stuff is so lightweight that it will actually stand up on its own. So we want to give the impression of a smoldering fire pit. You see that? Now cut if there's any little traily bits, just cut them off. Now we're going to put glue under our fire pit, and we are going to glue it in place with a little bit of smoke coming out. So it just looks like a dying fire. Okay, now we are going to get our moose. Okay, now you might as well put lots of glue on the bottom of his feet. And you're going to pick a position for him, and then you're going to snuggle him down into the foliage. Okay, that looks pretty neat. The moose, turns out, is looking at the skunk with some suspicion. Okay, now I'm just going to go around to the back of the cabin. And now, you see this strip here. It is entirely up to you whether you want to put foliage on that or not. I think I'm going to leave mine plain to give the impression of the inside of a cabin, but you can choose to do what you want. Now, we have got a small bush hiding here somewhere. Oh, where's it gone? Okay, I found it, this little bush. Now, if you want, you could put some flower soft on that to make it look like it was actually a flowering bush. But it's up to you how you want to do that. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to also use a chunk of my tree that fell off. I'm going to put a liberal application of glue on the bottom of it. And then I'm going to plant it just on the far side of my chimney, right in there. And now I'm going to put some glue on the bottom of here. And again, on top, don't forget to put glue on the top of your base. And we're going to plant him right about there. And we need a little bit of ground cover to tuck underneath the tree there. There. Now, there's only one last thing to do, and that is to plant our dandelions. Now, your kit gives you enough materials to make a dozen dandelions, so I'm going to just start planting them. Now, they each have a base on them, but because, oh dear, where did I put my wire cutters? Okay, so we can take them out one at a time. Cut the wire that's off just down a little bit, and then dip it in the glue. My first dandelion, I think I'm going to plant right at the base of that tree. Oops, doesn't want to go in. Now, alternatively, oh, I was going to mention, the other part of your smoke you can use in the chimney of your cabin. You don't have to, and if you do use smoke up here, make sure that you've got a lit fire going inside. So I'm not going to have smoke in mine. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around and find some good places to plant dandelions. Now, dandelions tend to like to be close to the house, close to a house. So another way of doing this, if you don't want to cut the wires, is to just poke a hole with your awl into the top of the base. Apply some glue to the stem of your dandelion, and then using your tweezers, pop it in the hole that you just made. Okay. So I'm going to have a little group of dandelions, I think, right here beside the cabin. And I'll get one with a dead flower as well. Oh yeah, this is fun. There we go, so I've got a little group of dandelions growing there. And I think maybe on the front corner, maybe by the rabbit. Rabbits like to eat dandelions, I don't know. Let's put two in here. Okay, and we need some around the outhouse. Let's put a little patch of them right here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, where else would be some nice dandelions? Maybe just a couple right up here, or one anyway. trick is finding the hole again afterwards. Okay, we'll put 2 in here. Got 2 left. Where shall they go? How about 1 on the other side of the outhouse? Maybe 1 by this skunk right here. Let's put 1 right there. And my last dandelion will go, how about right here on the corner of the deck? Right there. There. Now those little pops of color make an amazing difference. So I'm going to set it aside now, and we're going to wait for the glue to dry. Now, I'm not going to do this so you can watch me, but these are the edging for your box. What you're going to do while the glue is drying is you're going to stain these, and you're going to glue them onto the 4 sides. Now the short pieces go on first, and then the long pieces. You need to stain both sides and one edge of these. Okay, so there's your cabin in the woods. It's wonderful. Thank you for taking the class.